balanced news and severe weather coverage. This is Fox 11 News at 5.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Phil. Another round of storms in northeast Wisconsin, every bit as strong as last night, continues to move through the area. And we have crews all over the area. The southern part of the area, certainly late this afternoon, being the hardest hit. And collectively, as many as 10,000 people in Fond du Lac County are without power this evening. So it has been quite a storm.
Today's storms hit the area hard this afternoon and are expected to last well into the night. And we are going right to Patrick Powell to check in with more on what to expect this evening as we transition now from the storms that hit us this afternoon. What do you think is that severe threat going to continue as we go into now the evening hours, Patrick?
The good news is I think the severe threat's done. At least the tornadic threat, the strong thunderstorm threat is over. Last severe thunderstorm warning expires in 3 minutes, but it's pretty much done. That is going to be over. The storms, the cluster of storms that prompted all the strong winds and the tornado warnings is now moving out into Lake Michigan. Officially, we continue with the severe thunderstorm watch until 9 o'clock tonight. It has been chipped away at the western and northwestern sides, but we are going to see that slowly come to an end. And I think the National Weather Service will slowly be canceling that from north to south. Now, we have a flash flood watch for the majority of the area. That continues until midnight. We also have a number of flash flood warnings. And with the amount of rain that's fallen over the last 3 days, this is really going to transition quickly into a flash flood event. So folks that are in urban areas, if you have, make sure your sump pumps are running. Make sure you do not drive across flooded roadways. If you live near creeks and streams, keep an eye on them. They are going to be climbing rapidly with how much rain has fallen over the past 3 days. You can see rain showers, thunderstorms moving up towards the northeast. The intense storms, the thunderstorms, are moving out into Lake Michigan. But this is moderate to occasionally heavy rain that continues to fill in. You can see the lightning with that initial cell, and then just an occasional lightning strike and the heavier rain filling in back to the west. Now, that is not only for the Green Bay area, but look at moderate rain filling in over Oconto and Marinette counties and back to the west through Bear Creek, Clintonville, Watoma, back into the Stevens Point area, and that actually goes all the way back to about La Crosse. The radar and lightning around the area shows those heavy showers and thunderstorms back into north central Iowa, all moving towards the northeast. So the end result is we are going to see a lot of rain. We already have seen a lot of rain. We are going to see additional rain as we head through the next several hours, and that could exacerbate some of the flood issues around the area.
All right, Patrick, thanks. And here in the Green Bay area, we have seen several flooded streets. We're going to be showing you video of that right now. Green Bay police, as we've been saying, asking everyone to avoid driving with all of the water around the streets. An ambulance, you can see, is blocking off Shawano and Hazel Street in Green Bay with the road flooded there. Lots of other roads are following suit. Some cars that did try driving through that water, all of that water and rain, have stalled. Fox 11's Robert Hornacek is live for us in Green Bay, where, as Robert, we just saw, we've been seeing some street flooding. How about you? What are you seeing, Robert?
Well, good evening, Michelle. The roads here on the east side of Green Bay are definitely wet. There are many spots that are covered in water, some that are probably as high as my waist. I'm standing near the corner of East Mason Street and Main Street. I want to get out of the way just to show you behind me a little bit what I'm seeing right now. This is East Mason Street, and it's shut down just to the west of the intersection with Main Street because the water is up to cars' hoods. We've seen several cars that have tried to drive through that water only to be stalled out. They've since been pushed out by some rescue crews, some Good Samaritans who are in the area. But this roadway here, Mason Street on the east side of Green Bay, is completely covered in water. We've seen many cars submerged. And if we can pan over to the right a little bit, we want to show you the intersection of East Mason and Main Street all the way. There's a police officer there that is blocking off Main Street because just a little bit down to the west and to the north, that street is completely flooded still. And we have some video we want to show you from earlier that we saw. Our photojournalist Tim Flanagan is out with me. And there's cars that are trying to drive through water that it's risky when you do it. You don't know how deep the water is. It looks like you might be able to get through, but you really don't know what you're dealing with. So police and law enforcement, fire departments are saying stay off the roads if you have to. Do not try to drive through that water because, again, you never know how deep it is. We've seen at least 8-10 cars get stalled out on Main Street and Mason Street. I talked to a gentleman earlier who was, his job is he's usually standing on the corner advertising for a local business. He said the water just came up like a flash. He saw it coming out of the ground. It was starting to see cars get submerged as they were going through. He said he pushed out at least 8 to 10 cars on his own. So again, the rain is starting to let up here on the east side of Green Bay. We're not seeing much lightning. We're not hearing much thunder right now, but we are again still seeing deep water in some spots on some roads, specifically East Mason Street and East Main Street, right near that intersection. There's still some deep water on the roads. The rescue crews, police have the roads shut down in spots, so traffic is a little backed up. So if you are trying to get home on your commute, or if you're expecting someone to come home and they're coming through the east side of Green Bay, they probably will be a little bit delayed just because there's a lot of traffic. Some roads are closed right now. They're diverting them to some of the side streets. So again, if you come across water, don't try to drive through it because as we've seen many times here tonight on the east side of Green Bay, there are cars that are just getting stuck, getting stalled out, and they need to have somebody push them out. That's the scene right now on the east side of Green Bay. Tom and Michelle, back to you.
All right, Robert, if we can hold you with us for just a little bit. A driver I know very well said it was very scary. That was on the west side as well. Compare, if you will, for just a minute, what it looks like right now to what you showed us from a couple of hours ago. Significantly better? Is it consistently dropping? What's happening?
Well, I will say the rain has significantly decreased. When we got out here, it was just coming down in sheets. The water level that we're seeing on some of these streets is just as high as it was, and maybe the system is just trying to catch up with all of that water that came down. So at this point in the last 45 minutes to an hour or so that we've been out, we have not seen a reduction in the water that is on these streets, especially Mason Street and Main Street where it's blocked off right now. So again, the rain is starting to let up, which is a good thing. So we would hope that give it some time and these high waters will subside. We'll be out here to see what happens.
Yeah, and he did bring up a good point, Robert, that a lot of people are going to be coming home from work and perhaps having to take different routes as some of these streets are flooded. Even as you were going out and about with your photographer trying to get some of these shots, were you guys diverted at all from routes that you normally take, I should say?
Well, I would say if we were on the west side of Green Bay, we were originally checking out some things over there. We got word that things were bad here on the east side. If we would have stayed on Mason Street, I don't know if we'd be here yet because the traffic was so backed up. So we did take a few back roads here. We got across the bridge and then we diverted through some side roads because, you know, the traffic was just backed up. So definitely you're going to be probably driving on some unfamiliar roads because right now here on Mason Street, you know, they've got the intersection is open, but they're diverting cars around. So you can't go to the northwest on Main Street. Once you come across the intersection onto Mason Street, they're diverting you onto Diane Street, which people probably aren't familiar with that street because they know where it is, but they may not know it by name. It's just the street one block off the intersection. So you're going to be going down roads you don't know. And that's why it's so important if you come across water, you see high water specifically on the roadway, crews are saying don't try to drive through it because chances are you're going to get stalled out, your car's going to get stuck, and that's not going to be very fun.
Well, we see some vehicles out there, but it doesn't seem, this is Mason and Main, it doesn't seem like normal traffic for this time of day.
No.
No, definitely not. And again, the intersection is open, but the cars are being diverted. So it's kind of, they're doing a very good job of controlling the traffic here to keep it from backing up. But again, every once in a while, it's been a few minutes since we've seen a motorist try to get through the water. But every time they do it, without fail, they're getting stuck, they're getting stopped, and somebody's having to push them out.
I want to show you a little bit of what it was like at Lambeau Field this afternoon. The tunnel that the Packers come out of basically blocked off because if you understand the pitch of the field, the water is going to come off the field and it's going to drain right up through that tunnel down into the locker rooms and the media auditorium areas, and so they have set up basically a dam to try to keep that water in place where it is, give it a chance to drain off a little bit. Again, the heavy rain at Lambeau Field, you can see that it Not all the water stayed out. This is a look from back near the Packers locker room, and this now a look out toward the field with the road grader, if you will, blocking as much water as possible. Fortunately, the team will be on the road on Thursday, won't play a game at Lambeau Field for another 12 days, so our hope would be that the water would be gone by.
We are continuing to follow and bring you updates on that severe weather that pounded the area this afternoon, really with all of the rain, with lots of high winds, even some downed trees. And one of the hardest hit areas was in the Fond du Lac County area. Yeah,
the area of Oakfield, which is well known, of course, for a devastating tornado 22 years ago, an F5 at the time that was, of course, one of the major weather happenings of recent history in northeast Wisconsin. Fox 11's Ben Krumholtz is in that area right now. And Ben, bring us up to date on what you found, what damage you've seen.
Yeah, Tom and Michelle, we are on County Road B right now in Oakfield, where we're just starting to see some of the damage. And if you take a look behind me, look at this large uprooted tree that is laying on a power line. We talked with the homeowner. He's got more damage up his long driveway here. He said trees fell on an area where his daughter was supposed to have her car parked. Luckily, she was out getting a cell phone. He's happy that this tree is down because he was looking to take it down anyway. And he said that he was in the basement while this was all going on. I was actually the one to say, hey, your tree's down here. And I asked him about that tornado in Oakfield here in 1996, if he had any flashbacks. And he said, yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit as we were heading to the basement. So people do have that on their mind here. But also we are parked on County Road B, as I said, and we have a lot of people that are stopping and telling us about other damage throughout Fond du Lac County. We're going to be going and checking that out once we get done here. We're told in Lemira there is significant damage with a barn down. We'll be checking that out. Also in Brownsville, we're told there's significant damage. But for now, we're going to send it back to you guys in the studio.
We are continuing to check in with our crews who are live out and about on the scene. We've got Fox 11's Robert Hornacek, who's in Green Bay, where we saw some streets flooding the last time we checked in with you, Robert. Now what are you finding?
Well, good evening, Michelle. It's a drastically different scene here on the east side of Green Bay, although we're not completely out of the water yet. Literally here, East Mason Street is still closed down. The water is still covering the road. You see a car going through it right now. About a half hour ago, that water would have been up to the tail lights on that car. So the water has gone down significantly, but the road is still shut down here on East Mason Street near the intersection with Main. Main Street is also still closed. There are several cars that are still in the water, in the roadway, that they're working on getting pushed out. So if you are out and about traveling tonight, avoid the area of Main Street and East Mason Street, I would say for some time at least, because it's going to take some time for that water to go down. Luckily, the rain has let up quite a bit, as Patrick said. It's still coming down. It's kind of right now just enough to be annoying, but if it keeps going on, it's going to take a little bit of time for this water to totally recede. Now, about an hour ago when we got onto the scene, we immediately came upon a man who rushed up to us and said, you wouldn't believe what I just saw. He literally was pushing cars with some other Good Samaritans as they saw cars getting stuck in the water. I want to show you a little bit about what he had to say when we came on the scene.
The water started coming out of the ground. We started to notice cars getting stranded. There was some young men helping me. We pushed 7 cars out of the water. The water's up to the hood. It came up to my waist. I didn't care that I was getting wet. I wanted to get people out of the water.
Now, we probably saw at least a dozen cars or so since we've been here going through the water. Most of those cars got stuck, but again, the water is starting to recede here. We can finally see the center line on Mason Street. We couldn't see that when we got here. The water's going down, but again, still some treacherous conditions out here on the roads. Avoid the area of East Mason and Main Street for much of the night, I'm sure, because the roads are still closed and there's still water covering the roadways.
All right, Robert, thanks so much. That's amazing. Water up to his waist.
Yeah, people helping people. We'll be right back.